Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the second episode of the series Checkmate Patterns Every Chess Player Must Know. If you are new to this, we are talking about ways to develop and improve our tactics, how to spot checkmates and calculate faster. And we've already discussed in the first episode how we do that. It is by recognizing and practicing these checkmate patterns, working on them, doing several puzzles so that we master these checkmate patterns and become able to spot them in our chess games. There's already a video about the first 3 checkmate patterns. Feel free to check it out. In this episode, we're going to discuss 3 more checkmate patterns. And the first one is what we call Anastasia's mate. Anastasia's mate is a checkmate that involves the rook and the knight. It's pretty similar to a checkmate pattern we've already discussed, which is the Arabian mate. The only difference is the knight and the rook, they're not connected somehow. There's a little split and they have different roles. In the previous one, I can talk about it briefly. It's a checkmate with the rook, and the rook is protected by the knight. In this checkmate, the knight has a different role. The knight is cutting off the king, preventing the king from escaping, and the rook is delivering the checkmate. Of course, a checkmate with a with a queen would also work. Whatever the rook does, the queen could also do. So if this was a queen, this would also work. Same concept. Some of you are gonna tell me this is not realistic. This is never gonna happen over the board. Maybe, perhaps, but for that reason, we have a couple of exercises for that checkmate pattern in particular. The first one is the following. We're playing with the white pieces. We are down a queen for a knight. And of course, you could capture the queen on the next move, or white is to move, and white could just capture the queen. You would be up a piece, but what's more important than capturing a queen is delivering a checkmate. Can you see the checkmate, knowing or based on what we've discussed few seconds ago? Can you deliver a checkmate with the knight and the rook? Yes, you can. You start by giving a check, and the king has to move. Doesn't matter where the king goes, because both squares are going to be protected. And if the king goes to h8, it's going to be even worse for black, or same result actually. And this is checkmate. Still, maybe this is not too realistic for you. Let's have a look at another example. It's kind of equal in a way. Black is of course better because black has more pawns. Black has 2 more pawns, and it doesn't really matter. Like, our king looks kind of naked, and it looks scary. If it was black to move, black would just capture, and it would be checkmate after you block and then capture. This is the back rank mate. We've discussed it in the first video. But luckily, it is white to move, and white could deliver a checkmate. Do you see it? In this position, it's a little bit different than the one we had before. And the one we had before, I'm going to go back one step. There's no pawn here, so the file is open for the rook to start an attack or to give a check. So it's kind of different. So this check doesn't really do much because the king will just go here and the king is safe behind these pawns. Is it, or is it not? Feel free to pause the video if you would like to think about it. Give it a minute or two to perhaps try to find the checkmate yourself. The checkmate is just simply capturing, giving up your queen. The king has to take, and now check. This is not a checkmate yet because the rook could block. The rook blocks, and now you capture and it's checkmate. Okay, so this is the first one. Same concept. I would strongly advise that you do not a dozen, perhaps like hundreds if possible, as much as you could. Do a lot of these puzzles. You can find them online on different chess platforms, chess.com. You could always do the puzzle rush and you will find very similar positions. Moving on to the next one. And this is the most interesting one. And this one, if you don't really know it, it's kind of hard to spot over the board. I personally think so. I've never spotted this before, like being introduced to this checkmate. It's what we call the smothered mate. The smothered mate is when you just give a check and the check is going to be a checkmate because the king is being suffocated by its own pieces. So knight f7 in that position is a checkmate. Same question or same discussion. Who's going to bring the rook there? Who's going to suffocate the king willingly? Well, it's not gonna happen willingly. Sometimes it does if your opponent is, I don't know, is tilting or blunders, like some mistakes happen. Let's say this could happen. They just give you an opportunity to deliver a checkmate without doing the work. But let's have a look at some exercises where we could actually do it ourselves. In this position, it's very common. This happens when you play the Caro-Kann. I don't want to bother you with opening theories, but this is basically a very common position and a very common trap in the Caro-Kann. White played e4, black played c6, and then d4, d5, knight c3 captures, the knight jumps, and then queen e2. If black plays knight bd7, so that if you capture here, they capture with a knight. They don't want to capture with a pawn and damage their pawn structure. Long story short, this is a trap, and white could win. Do you see the checkmate? It's knight d6, checkmate. Why is it a checkmate? The king is suffocated by its own pieces, but this is also a pin, so the pawn cannot capture the knight. Same thing. We still didn't see a position where we kind of force the king to get suffocated by its own pieces. Telling you patience, we're getting to that. This is the most common position. This is a position that could actually happen. White to move and white to give a checkmate in 5 moves. 5 sounds a lot, but if you know this pattern, it's going to be a piece of cake. So you could capture here. It's a check. The king slides to the left check. The king goes up. It's not really a checkmate yet. I don't know. Probably there is a checkmate along the way, but there's a much easier checkmate. And once you know it, you will always find it. It's check with the queen. And it usually happens when black opens this diagonal. So check. If the black king goes to the left, you give a checkmate. But black is going to put up a fight and is going to say no. I understand this is a fork and you're going to capture my rook. It's fine. It's still game on. I can fight back and perhaps win or whatever. But you're going to say the plan has never been to capture the rook. Who cares about the rook? Of course you can capture it because now it's a check and come back and do what we're about to do, but you don't have to do that. What you need to do is to deliver a check with the knight from h6, and this is a double check, and this is very important, which means black cannot capture the knight. Black has to deal with both checks. When it's a double check, your opponent is forced to move the king. Your opponent cannot block 2 checks at the same time, cannot capture 2 pieces at the same time, which means they have to move the king. If the king goes to the left, same concept, it's checkmate. The king is going to go to the right, and now queen g8, check. The king cannot capture. Why is that? Because the knight is protecting. So black is forced to capture with the rook, which leads to the initial position we've seen at the very beginning. You see that? And now checkmate. And this is the smothered mate. Of course, it has different forms, different ways. There are different techniques to force the king to do that. This one in particular, I would really suggest that you do a lot of tactics and puzzles and until you feel like you've completely mastered it and you've really grasped the concept, and then hopefully you will be able to deliver some of these. It's the most satisfying checkmate in my opinion. Okay, moving on to the third one for today, which is Opera's Mate. Opera's Mate is a checkmate you deliver with the rook and the bishop. The rook slides down, checkmate, it's protected by the bishop. Why is it called Opera's Mate? Very good question. Checkmates are usually named after the chess players that came up with them, or there's a story, like backstory for the name. In that case, Opera's Mate is because Paul Morphy played one of the most brilliant chess games in his century, and he played it in the Opera House in France, in Paris. Black is in a tough spot. Black is up a piece, but doesn't look pretty for black, does it? The king is naked, and white could deliver a checkmate. So the checkmate has to be delivered with the bishop and the rook. Take your time, try to figure it out yourself. It's also a very beautiful checkmate. Of course, Paul Morphy sacrificed and reached this position, and so all of that as he was sacrificing his pieces and opening up the position. The move is, and it's one of the moves of the century, queen b8 check. The knight captures. The knight has to capture. There's no other choice. The bishop is preventing the king from escaping. You have to capture, and now checkmate. Of course, this is also a very satisfying checkmate, and it's sometimes pretty hard to spot over the board if you don't know it. And this is the thing about these puzzles. Once about these patterns, once you start doing these puzzles, something is gonna click in your head. It's your brain is gonna start mapping these puzzles you've done and somehow start spotting these positions in your games, these tactics. And of course, once you see a bishop and a rook on the board, you're gonna automatically think of that. It's Opera's mate, knight and a rook. Maybe it's the Arabian mate. Maybe it's Anastasia's mate. Maybe it's Smothered Mate. So this is what starts happening in your head. Okay, one more exercise. So white is in a tough spot as well. White is about to get checkmated. It doesn't matter because we're going to give a checkmate in 2 moves. Can you see it? Can you spot it? It's bishop c6 first. Check. The king has to slide down because this file is attacked by our rook. So the king has to go either to b8 or c8, doesn't matter, because this is checkmate. Yeah. And that would be it for this time. 3 more checkmates. Now you have 6 checkmates to master, practice, work on, and hopefully use in your games. I'll be introducing more, of course, in the next episodes. So feel free to check them out once you feel you've mastered these ones and you're already looking for the next challenge, let's say. That was it for this video. Hope it was fun and useful for you. I would really appreciate it if you hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.